Hello and welcome to Friday's Granada Reports. We are live across the northwest.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. Here's what's coming up on tonight's programme.
He killed his wife as she pushed their baby in a pram. Tonight, Habiba Massoum faces life in prison after tracking Kulsuma actor to a women's refuge to attack her.
To capture such a horrendous attack on CCTV, it's been a very incredibly emotive investigation for everybody involved.
The teenager with a zest for life. A shocked community mourns a 14-year-old who died in a stabbing.
The royal daffodil is blooming. Join me later in the programme for a first look at the newest Mersey Ferry.
It's an honour. More than anything, it's an honour.
Sir Mark Cavendish on the raceway where he fell in love with cycling being named after him.
I'm here at Blackpool Pleasure Beach for the reopening of the Grand National roller coaster. Keep watching to see how I get on.
And indeed, if you get off again. I'm here too, and I'll be back with a whole forecast, not just for Blackpool Pleasure Beach, but for the whole of Granada land. Candy floss?
Yeah. Oh.
Well, first tonight, he was a violent, jealous, controlling husband. And tonight, Habiba Massoum is facing life in prison after stabbing his wife to death as she pushed their baby in a pram.
Chillingly, the 26-year-old had tracked Kulsuma actor to a women's refuge where she'd been moved by Oldham Social Services. He was captured on CCTV casually walking around the city centre in the minutes after he killed her. Today, a jury found him guilty of her murder. Emma Sweeney has tonight's top story.
It looks every bit the picture of a happy family day out. But just seconds later, Habiba Massoum would turn and stab his wife 25 times. As Kulsuma Akhtar lay bleeding to death in the gutter, their 7-month-old baby boy lay oblivious beside her.
I saw her lying down on the floor, and straight away I tried to see where she'd been stabbed or what exactly happened. I tried to bring her back to.
Gio Khan is a local shopkeeper. He tried to save her, but it was already too late.
Police and the ambulances, they came. Then when ambulance tried to check her everything, and then I think it was her clothes was, then I came rushing down to the shop, got a big white sheet and took her and put it on her. But when I checked her, she was gone. She was dead.
Massoum shouldn't have been anywhere near Kulsuma that day. He'd been given strict bail conditions not to contact her after holding a knife to her throat at the family home in Oldham. But, using her phone's location, he tracked her down to a women's refuge in Bradford. And there, on the surrounding streets, he spent days just loitering, watching and waiting. He told the court he'd gone to save his marriage before hopelessly losing control, but the evidence was stacked against him.
It's really unusual for us to see an event unfold on CCTV as it did, and I think we've seen from the actions of Habiba Massoum following that he realised the extent of the evidence against him, which is why he's tried to rely on a diminished responsibility.
In the moments after the attack, Habiba Massoum, who was branded the smiling killer, calmly strolled the nearby streets before travelling almost 200 miles to Buckinghamshire. By the time he visited a local hospital, he must have felt invincible. But it was here his luck ran out. Next month he'll be given a life sentence, small comfort for Kulsuma Akhtar's loved ones, who must now face their lives without her. Emma Sweeney, ITV News.
Well, next to the moving tributes to a teenager who is described as having a zest for life. Family and friends of Christopher McBurnney gathered at a church on the Isle of Man earlier for his funeral.
The 14-year-old was stabbed last month and another 14-year-old remains in custody accused of his murder. Our Isle of Man reporter Joshua Stokes sent this from the church.
Well, there's been a real outpouring of emotion from the Isle of Man community here today, celebrating the life of Christopher McBurnney. Many of his fellow school friends lined the entrance of the church to pay their respects as Christopher's coffin arrived at the Abbey Church here in Ballasalla. Christopher died after being stabbed in the north of the island at the end of last month in an incredibly rare incident for the Isle of Man, and one that has really had a profound effect on the people who live here. Today, his family carried his coffin into the church as the island's community gathered both inside and outside to hear the words of Christopher's mum, Rebecca. Read out by Reverend Ruth Walker, Rebecca described Christopher as having a zest for life that couldn't be contained. She wrote about his love for Liverpool Football Club and how he often would laugh and play with his two brothers. She concluded by saying he wasn't just her son, but her best friend, and that he will be forever loved. Now, this, of course, has been an incident that has shaken the Isle of Man community to its very core, but that feeling of togetherness has been particularly poignant today as Christopher's family remembered their teenage boy, forever 14 and forever in the hearts of those who knew him best.
Joshua Stokes reporting from the Isle of Man there. Well, in other news today, and hundreds of people look set to spend a fourth night out of their homes after a hoard of explosives was found at a man's house in St Helens following his death. More than 200 homes were evacuated on Tuesday, with some families being moved to a local community centre and school hall. Police say John Nelson's home on Chadwick Road in St Helens was packed with wartime memorabilia, including devices and detonators which officers feared could explode.
We just want answers. We just want a definitive answer so we can get back in the houses and get everything back to normal. Normality is what people want, really, and we're getting nothing from it.
A bus route's being introduced on the Isle of Man after passengers complained they couldn't reach the tip of the island by public transport. Earlier this week, we reported how tourists have been left angry after the bus from Port Erin to the Sound stopped operating almost 2 years ago now. Bus Vannon hopes the new service will connect Peel to the south of the island in time for the school summer holidays.
Well, next tonight, to a Northwest institution as famous around the world as Blackpool Tower or Coronation Street. We are talking about the ferry across the Mersey, the last of which was introduced back in the 1960s when Jerry Marsden had international success with the song All About It.
Well, today we got a first look at a brand new ferry, the Royal Daffodil. When it's finished, it's going to look like this, and it's being built right on the banks of the river. We sent Victoria Grimes along to check on its progress.
She's already taking shape to become the newest flower on the Mersey. And with the task of guiding that all-important funnel into place, Liverpool's Mayor Steve Rotherham.
The two ferries that we've currently got are both older than me, and there are bits dropping off. That's the ferries, not me. But it needs, obviously, constant maintenance, and they need a lot of money spent on them. And actually, we will save money over the long term by building a new ferry and to have the commuter side of it in brilliant facilities, but also we'll be able to hire it out so that we can make revenues to fund another Mersey ferry.
The Royal Daffodil is being built at Camel Leads in Birkenhead, right on the banks of the river it will soon sail on. Work to install the keel began in January. Since then, a team of 130 have been working on it, amongst them 21-year-old Jack, one of 12 apprentices learning that craft on what will soon become another Mersey icon.
Every day working at Camel Leads, you see the Mersey Ferry go up and down the river. So it feels amazing to think that I've built pieces of that ferry.
At your service might well be the slogan of the ferry boats on the Mersey.
Ferries, in one form or another, have been a familiar sight on the Mersey since the 1300s. They've remained a firm fixture, even immortalised in that song by Jerry Marsden. The Royal Daffodil will be the 60th ferry to cross the Mersey. This is the first time that we've been able to walk on what will become ultimately the passenger deck. Hard to believe now, isn't it? But this will hold 460 passengers. The next stage will see her going out on the water.
We'll be looking at putting the ship into the water around about the middle of October. There's lots of trialling to go on, so During this period now, we'll be fitting windows, fitting doors, so this is the outfit side of the life now.
Until then, it's all hands on deck to make sure the Royal Daffodil is in full bloom and ready for passengers by next summer. Victoria Grimes, ITV News, Birkenhead.
And we will be there, absolutely, when it is finally out on the water.
Yeah, I love every time we take a trip on a ferry across the Mersey, they do blast the song out the speakers.
Yeah.
Right, you're watching Granada Report from ITV News, and still to come tonight.
We're at Blackpool Pleasure Beach.
We got candy floss, we got roller coasters, we got each other. What more could we need?
Maybe the weather?
Coming up shortly.
And here's what's still to come at 6:30 with Charlene.
Coming up on tonight's ITV Evening News, a life sentence for the man who murdered schoolboy Daniel Angerin with a samurai sword in Hainault last year. Another government U-turn, this time on welfare. The government may have avoided a backbench rebellion, but at what cost? And all aboard for the celebrity wedding of the year. Join us for those stories and more from 6:30.
Well, let's take a look at some sport now. And Everton captain Seamus Coleman has signed a one-year contract extension that will keep him at the club for a 17th season.
Meanwhile, Manchester City will face Saudi Arabia's Al Hilal for a place in the quarter-finals of the Club World Cup. City look back to their best as they beat Italian side Juventus 5-2 in Orlando. Erling Haaland scored the 300th goal of his career.
Well, this weekend marks a milestone in the Glazer family's ownership of Manchester United. It's 20 years since the Americans officially took control of one of the world's biggest football clubs.
Yeah, this was a hugely controversial takeover funded by placing United into hundreds of millions of pounds worth of debt. It angered many fans who've continually protested, calling for them to go. David Chisnall looks back now on the rocky ride of the Glazers' time in charge.
It was all smiles for Malcolm Glazer after buying Manchester United, but his takeover 20 years ago sparked fury from the fans. A £790 million deal funded by loans secured against the club saw United go from being debt-free to owing hundreds of millions of pounds. The anger of supporters clear to see as the Americans' three sons had to be escorted away from Old Trafford in a police van back in 2005.
We understand the skepticism. We understand when there's change, there's uncertainty. But it's going to be business as usual.
He'll go before us. If it takes 1 year, 10 years, 12 years, we'll still be here.
But 2 decades on, and after continued protests from the fans, the Glazers have gone nowhere. Despite winning multiple Premier League and the Champions League under Sir Alex Ferguson, since his departure in 2013, the club's success has been on a downward spiral. Last season's 15th place finish in the Premier League under Ruben Amorim, their worst in the top flight for nearly 50 years.
20 years of the Glazers has been a disaster, and for a lot of Manchester United supporters it's been horrific. When the takeover happened 20 years ago, 95% of Manchester United supporters were fervently against it.
Despite 20 years of repayments, United's finances still show big debts.
It's got borrowings of more than £700 million. It owes more than £400 million in unpaid transfer fees. More than £1 billion has gone out of the club in terms of interest payments, dividend payments to the shareholders, of which the Glazers have been major beneficiaries.
The Glazers have taken millions out of the club, but under them United's revenue has increased fourfold to £660 million, and around £2 billion has been spent on players.
Yes, they spent a lot of money on football players, but what they bought were commercial assets. They bought players that would sell shirts and not necessarily better the football. And, you know, that's where we are now. The football's horrendous. It's 20 years of hardship for Man United fans, and it's got to end.
Could you have a wave, please? In 2024, fans were given a glimmer of hope to an end when Failsworth-born United fan Sir Jim Ratcliffe bought a 27% stake in the club for around £1.25 billion. But after taking over the football operation, the billionaire has made himself just as unpopular as the Glazers, with cost-cutting decisions from redundancies to ticket price rises.
He's made even more draconian moves. He's moved supporters who have supported the club all their lives, generations of families. He's moved them out with their seats. He's basically said to them, you're out with those seats now, and we're going to sell those seats as corporate seats, and that's disgraceful.
Ratcliffe claims changes are needed for the club to become profitable again, but United legend Eric Cantona has accused the ownership of trying to destroy the club. The Frenchman is now one of the co-owners at the non-league side FC United, a club set up by United fans and happy with the Glazers' takeover in 2005.
It's a great one. Young history, but a great history.
Well, United declined to comment on the Glazers' 20 years. The club is currently consulting supporters on a proposed new £2 billion redevelopment of Old Trafford. Many of the club's fans want new ownership rather than a new stadium. But after a turbulent 20 years, the Glazers show no signs of selling. David Chisnell, ITV News, Old Trafford.
Hard to believe it's been 20 years. I remember the takeover like it was yesterday. Incredible stuff.
We're getting old.
Oh, we are. OK, next tonight, so another honour being bestowed upon one of our cycling greats. Sir Mark Cavendish holds a record for the most stage wins at the Tour de France.
Yeah, today the Manx Missile was the special guest as the Isle of Man's raceway was officially given a new name. Chris Hall reports.
The place where his two-wheeled obsession began is now his forever home. The Isle of Man Raceway, renamed the Sir Mark Cavendish Raceway.
Yeah, just to have my name associated with the place I grew up, and so many other actually professional bike riders, and so many kids who dreamed of just riding a bike started down here. It's very, very nice, really nice.
This 1 kilometre circuit, which now boasts a new podium and finish line, is where the Manx Missile earned his reputation.
And he's Mark Cavendish. So how do you think your form's going, Mark?
OK. I did better than I thought I would.
Well done, you'll all be film stars.
I think he was a bit disappointed that night because he was only second. Folklore has it that he said to his mum he was on his BMX bike, and if she bought him a mountain bike that he would win. And I think the rest is history.
Take me back to the days when you used to come here as a kid.
Probably a bit wet like this on a lot of the days, you know. From before I was riding a bike till now, there's 200 kids on a Tuesday night down here, you know. Even if kids didn't make it as professional bike riders, like to get out on a Tuesday night to feel that community feel, that inspired me to cycle. Obviously the Isle of Man's famous for motorbikes, and we grow up with that racing kind of feeling in our blood, really, and cycling's like the simplest way to do that, isn't it?
After years of pounding the pedals here, he turned professional at 18 and went on to claim Commonwealth gold, Olympic silver and multiple world titles on both track and road.
It's done! The story is finally complete!
But it's his record 35 stage wins at the Tour de France which made him a global superstar and an idolised islander.
We're cycling around with Mark Cavendish and it's really exciting because he's the best in the world.
He's like one of the best sprinters like the world's ever seen in cycling.
Yeah, it's brilliant that he grew up here and that he's worldwide famous.
Best of all time, 35 stage wins.
And he's from the Isle of Man and he's from this club. Mark Cavendish, go on Isle of Man! Yeah, Mark Cavendish!
It's now more than half a year since Cavendish retired with 165 race wins under his belt, but today brought one last chance for win number 166, a timed hot lap of the circuit, inspiring others to follow in his tyre tracks. I heard a wonderful question being asked to you by a young kid. When you're out on your bikes with the kids, do you let your kids win in races?
I don't know, yeah. When they're really little, yeah, but as they get older, no, not really. One thing I don't get them to do is give up. You know, as long as they don't give up and go all the way to the line, then that's important, really. You really have to take off your cyclist hat and your dad hat, and depends which circumstance you're in.
Thousands of children from every school on the Isle of Man were involved in this project, where the message is to be like Sir Mark and follow your dreams, so that a new Manx Missile can emerge from his slipstream. Chris Hall, ITV News, Douglas.
What a career.
Yeah, Sir Mark Cavendish, one of the greatest cyclists of all time.
Now, you may not know, or you may know, but Gamal and I are thrill seekers who love to live life on the wild side.
Yes, we certainly do. And there is no better adrenaline-boosting pastime than taking a ride on a roller coaster.
Well, today, one ride at Blackpool Pleasure Beach is celebrating its 90th birthday.
The Grand National first opened in 1935 and it's been exhilarating sensation seekers ever since.
Now, sadly, well, I've got a bad back and Gamal's got a sore finger. So we can't give it a ride, so the hospital pass of the day goes to Tasha Kachiri.
Tash is about to interview our next guest live as she takes a whirl on the track. So what could possibly go wrong, Tash?
Everything, Gamal, everything could possibly go wrong. Now, yes, it is reopening day here at the Grand National roller coaster. It is one of a kind. It's the only one in the UK still in rotation. It's made completely of wood, and also at its peak, it can take up to 720 people along for the ride every hour. Now, some of those people who've been on today have been telling us all about it.
When you get back to the station, everyone's like laughing or clapping. Everyone has a really good time. It's just a really good fun ride.
Don't think I can breathe now.
It was brilliant.
Bit of a bone shaker, but really good fun.
Yeah, so
really
when you get to our age, you don't want your bones shaking that much. But it was good. It was brilliant.
It's a little bit on the rougher side, but yeah, what you expect from a 90-year-old coaster.
It was a bit scarier than we expected it to be.
It's going to be a lot easier than that.
Should we go? Let's go. This is Andy. Andy knows about roller coasters, don't you?
I do, yes. I've been on a few.
And you're going to tell us all about this roller coaster. How important is this? Ooh, gosh. I'd like to also mention, I'm scared of heights and roller coasters.
Well, we're only going up 64 feet in a second, so it's not that high, not compared to some of our coasters. But yeah, I mean, this is a really special ride. It's the only, as you said, it's the only one of its kind in the UK. It's actually only one of, there's only one of two in the world, which is a Mobius loop coaster. Yeah. And what that means is that we're actually going to come into the station on the opposite side to the one that we went out on, which is very, very unusual. Okay, so you're going to have, hopefully, a unique but thrilling experience now.
How important is having roller coasters like this one at Blackpool?
It's really important to us. People think of rides like the big one. They think of the Grand National, and rides that, you know, big rides are why people come to amusement parks. We got a massive gyro swing coming next year. People are really excited about that. But if you go right back to 1935, you have to think that people would think the same about the Grand National. And so I think, personally, that it's a really great thing that 90 years later, people still want to come and ride this ride. To me, that means that this is a really exciting, really good ride, but we'll see what you think in a second, because we're just about to leave the top of the lift hill.
It's really high!
And we're heading towards the famous double drop.
Oh my
so
God.
Here we go. Are you ready? So we're going. So hopefully, did you like that? No. Well, hopefully you got a little pop of airtime, because that's what roller coaster enthusiasts want from a ride.
My heart is in my throat. There's another dip coming.
Here we go. Here we go. Another bit of airtime, see? We're racing into Canal Turn now, and then we're heading towards Little Chuck, which is another really thrilling part of the ride. You ready? Here we go! Hey, that was fun. So, as you can...
What does it take to keep this roller coaster moving?
We have a team of specialist engineers that look after the ride and keep it in tip-top condition. We're final straight now. So this. Right. You're okay. No. Nearly the end.
Oh, my heart.
You want to go again?
No, absolutely not.
Well done. Here we are.
I survived. And we're somewhere here. Please find us.
I can't wait to get back to the office to see the rerun of that. Well done, Tasha.
Brave girl, nerves of steel. As a Blackpool-bred lass, of course, the Pleasure Beach was my Saturday go-to. I was never really allowed to go on the Grand National, and when eventually I was, it took 4 hours for a school friend to persuade me to go on it, because she said, look how slowly it's going up there. She didn't tell me how quickly it was coming down again, so Tash has done absolutely brilliantly. So much happening here at the Pleasure Beach. My favourite was always the log flume because I got wet. It seems like my career in weather was preordained. So I'm going to toddle over there, let Tash recover. Let's take a look at the forecast.
Why do I need a shower? I've been out in the rain.
The faster you go, the sooner you'll be out. You'll save water too.
United Utilities sponsors ITV Granada weather.
So it's not going to be a bad weekend at all for visiting the Pleasure Beach and experiencing all these thrilling rides. It's been a bit breezy today. It will continue breezy over the weekend. Winds not quite as strong as they were today. Lots of warmth around as well. Of course, there's lots of talk of heat waves at the moment, but nothing like the recent heat wave we've had. That was quite widespread, but this time it's confined really to the southeast of England and the Midlands. It's going to be warm and warming up nicely where we are, but still quite cloudy over the next couple of days. And also, hold the front page, sneak preview, a touch of ice in the forecast, but only here at the Pleasure Beach and on July the 10th when the spectacular Hot Ice Show opens. But returning to the immediate future, we've had a front moving through which has now left us in this warm sector, the muggy temperatures continuing through to next Tuesday, high pressure building from the south, and that's what gives the clear skies and the heat waves over the southern half of England, but a few fronts pushing through from the west for us. So for tonight then, there is a bit of a legacy of mist and murk over the tops of hills, and generally it's going to stay dry. There may just be an isolated spot of drizzle, mainly over higher ground. Uncomfortable for sleeping tonight, 18 or 19 Celsius in some spots, your lowest temperatures. And then we're into tomorrow. The sun's up about 20 to 5 in the morning, and it's going to be a similar start to today. Lots of cloud around, 1 or 2 breaks. There could be, again, some mist and murk lingering. It continues breezy. The wind's not as strong as today, and those temperatures starting to push up all the while. And then a front fades over us as we head into Sunday. Sunday again not looking too bad, mostly dry. Temperatures do peak as we head towards Monday though, 26, that's 77 Fahrenheit. The risk of an odd isolated thunderstorm in places, and after that temperatures cool down a bit but still pleasant and sunny. Let's take a look at the pollen.
United Utilities sponsors ITV Granada weather.
Making the most of summer. Pirrie sponsors ITV pollen count.
On then to the pollen report now. Still a few stragglers around. We're at the peak of the grass pollen season, so counts high or very high over the next few days, and UV is at its strongest at this time of year too. That's it. Bye-bye.
It's a family programme, and Tash did very well not to swear there.
Cold start.
Just before we go, a quick shout out to Peel Primary School in Little Holton.
Yeah, they held a Where's Wally themed day today. Hundreds of pupils and staff were indistinguishable as they raised money for some badly needed new books.
Looks like a lot of fun. Well done to them and well done to Tash. We'll see you on Monday. Bye-bye.
Bye.